The NB Network with Dee Sparta.
Hi, it's me, Dee. Welcome to the NB Network. Today we are tackling actually, two cases, two individuals, who may or may not have a connection. We are talking about here for our true crime tarot reading, the clown and the Candyman. There is a documentary which I recently watched on Discovery Plus in Investigative Discovery Channel. You can find it. You can Google it. It's on Amazon. It's there. I do want to warn you, if you do watch this, you are going to see news footage from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s where being gay was criminal, was feared, and it is a lot of hate towards. And because of the two killers that we're going to be talking about happen to also be gay, it tries to paint a picture that, you know, if you're gay, you're this vile, depraved person. And unfortunately, you know, those are the times I grew up in, and it was hard. We've gone into this. Here is not easy. It was not. So if you watch it, some of the stuff could be could trigger you and make you go, what? Because back then, that was the climate. It sucked hardcore. So before I go any further with what I'm going to talk about, I give a warning: viewer discretion is advised. This video may contain topics that you may find disturbing and or offensive, such as sexual assault, pedophilia, torture, hate speech, homophobia, violence, and strong language. Now, the nature of this video is to educate and bring awareness to these sensitive issues. Now, if you're still here, let's go. Okay, now sure, you know, when I say the clown and the Candyman, you know, when you think of a killer clown, you think of John Wayne Gacy. Gacy was accused allegedly of killing 33 young men and boys. And their bodies were all found on his property in Illinois. Now, after he was sentenced and while he was sitting on death row, John Wayne Gacy did several interviews with people, and he began to say things such as, I didn't kill them all. I wasn't even in the state when this happened. Several people did have keys to my home, and they were allowed to use my home for, you know, whatever they needed to. And he started to hint at that things that just him and what was caught here is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, that there is something even bigger. There's more out there like him, and we need to be, you know, we need that we need to know that it wasn't all just him. And that's kind of, you know, people are going, well, wait a minute, did he not? Well, you know, we don't know if he did all the killings or not. Did he or did he not have accomplices? We don't know. Now, the Candyman, his name is actually Gacy Corll. No, he's not as notorious or infamous as a serial killer. You know, yet he too is known for murdering a lot of young teen men. About 28. So why is it Gacy Corll is known, and did he have any ties to John Wayne Gacy? Now, if you're interested in learning a bit more about these two, then please continue watching the video from here. Now, if you want to skip ahead and just get straight into the tarot reading, go for it. I do have the chapter links down below. So let's see. I'll see you next. either tarot reading or going into the story of the Candyman. Welcome back. So, who is the Candyman? Well, ever hear that warning that we give to kids? Don't take candy from strangers. Well, Dean Corll could be the reason for this warning. So let's learn a little bit more about Dean. Now, he was actually born on Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1939, to Mary Emma Robinson and Arnold Edwin Corll. Now, these two, their marriage was not great, but Dean didn't have a tragic childhood. There wasn't any kind of accused of abuse or violence or any assault or anything. It just wasn't tragic. Now, his dad wasn't great. He was just a very strict man, whom his mother left and divorced this man twice. This kept going back and forth. Now, after the second divorce, which was in 1953, she remarried someone different. She's like, I'm done with this guy. And she married Jake West. Now, Jake, Dean's stepdad, and his mother, Mary, started and operated a small candy factory in Victor, Texas. It was called Pecan Prince. Now, Dean, being a good son and all, he helped out working at this candy factory with his younger brother, and they did it when they were not in school. So it was like in the morning, after school, on the weekends, on holiday. They ended up becoming responsible for running these candy making machines and packaging everything up. And then their stepdad, Jake, he was a salesman, so he would go out and sell all the candy. Now, Dean was considered a well-mannered and good student. He wasn't very social. He was more of an introvert, and he didn't date very much, just about 2 or 3 women during his teen years. Now, once he graduated in 1958, Dean's family decided to relocate to Houston to be closer to the city in hopes of expanding their candy-making business. Now, Dean, at this point, he actually did get close to another woman, and she proposed to him, yet he declined. And he stayed single. Now, in 1963, Mary he says, enough. I don't like being married. And she, for who knows what reason, but she and Jake divorced. And Mary is like, I can do this candy business on my own. And she named it the Corll Candy Company. Now, Dean was made vice president of the company by his mother, and it was during this time that a young man who was employed there actually accused Dean of sexual harassment. Now, Mary, her response to this was, bye-bye, and fired that employee. Now, in 1964, Dean was drafted into the military. This is during Vietnam, and he was actually honorably discharged in 1965. He had 0 complaints on his record. It was clean. But it was also, this is when he realized, I am gay. And he actually confided this into some of his military friends there. Now, in 1967, Corll Candy Company moved across the street from an elementary school. This is when our story is going to get dark. He would hang around the school and give kids candy. And especially he loved young teen men. And he became very close to some of these boys there. And this is when he was declared the Candyman. He always had candy, and he would always bring it to the schools, hang out around there, giving all this candy. And so it became very common for him to be seen out with a few of boys hanging out with him. He's this good guy. He's there for the kids. He brings them candy. Candy was not real cheap back then, and sweets weren't easy to always come by. Now, once again, Dean gets accused of being flirtatious with some of the young men working at the candy company. And Dean also, he attracted some of these teen boys to come and hang out near the factory with him by, you know what he installed? A big old pool table where they could hang out, play pool, and just have a good time. He also was into drugs like marijuana and other hard drugs and alcohol. He would use that also with these teenage kids and have parties. Now, in June of 1968, Mary finally closes the candy factory and she moves to Colorado. She thought her son, Dean, would go along with her, but he didn't. And this was the very last time she ever saw her son. You see, he didn't want to relocate. He liked where he was at. He had all these young, he had a lot of friends around, you could say, huh? Now, he actually, during this time, befriends a young man named David Brooks. Actually, I would say he was grooming David. And I think this is something that in the story gets forgotten. And we're going to see Miss Justice just not treat some of these victims well at all. Because, you see, he started paying Brooks, who was a child. He was a young teen, and his family was broken, and they were poor, and he needed money. So he would pay Brooks to allow him to perform oral sexual acts on young Brooks. Very disturbing. And he would give Brooks gifts, and he would provide lots of marijuana and alcohol. And this is how he lured this poor child in. Now, it's said from 1970 to 1973, Dean actually raped and murdered at least 28 male teens. Now, Brooks was used to help lure many of Dean's victims. And also, Brooks brought on a friend of his to help. The whole thing was, hey, I know this cool guy, we could party, you could snuff paint. Yeah, they were sniffing paint, let me tell you. The paint fumes, getting off of paint fumes, whatever they could. It was just a party, hanging out at Dean's house. And so he brought someone else in, whose name is, I believe, it was Elmer Wayne Henley. Now, in the beginning, Brooks didn't know that some of the boys that he was luring over actually were killed. He didn't know about that part. Dean kept some of the stuff away from Brooks and away from Henley. Henley says, I didn't know that any of these boys that we were bringing over were being murdered. But when he did learn that was happening, the law tried to say, well, you didn't stop. You continued working for Dean. Don't think people understand what grooming is and manipulating and controlling of someone. But anyway, we'll go forward with this. So the house became this party house, and teen boys were lured in over and over. Now, the boys, Dean and not Dean, but Brooks and Henley, these two, they participated in the parties and in actually having sex with the young men who were lured there. They were kind of, it was forced them, it was like, Dean was like, you need to do this. He was a very dominant man who was also very threatening. Now, in August of 1973, Henley made a huge mistake. What could Henley have done that would piss Dean off, you would say? He brought a girl back to Dean's house. And boy, that pissed Dean off. It pissed him off. So Dean ends up drugging Henley and two teen boys. And he binds them up. And when Henley comes to, he realizes he's gagged and he's tied up. And he sees the other two boys tied up on these boards, these torture boards kind of thing. And yeah, and Dean, noticing Henley's awake, just starts yelling at him and threatening him of, I'm going to kill these boys and torture them, and you are going to have to watch, and then I'm killing you. How dare you bring a girl to my home? Yeah, this is well, yeah, Dean lost it. Dean really lost it here. And Henley became terrified. Now, the gag gets ripped off of Henley because Dean wants Henley to respond back, and he drags Henley over into the kitchen, and he's roughing him up. Now he's kicking the other two boys and hitting them, and then goes back to Dean. And for Brooks says for about 30 minutes they went into this argument, and where Dean had a gun pressed up against Henley's stomach, and Henley started to beg and promise Dean that he would participate in the torture and killings if he was unbound. He promised, I'll do this with you. I'm sorry, I should have brought the girl, blah, blah, blah. And this goes back and forth for, as I said, about 30 minutes. Now, finally, Dean relents, and he's like, okay, he ties Henley, and he brings him over to the boys to start beating on them. Now, Henley manages to get this gun that Dean had set down. And at this point, he tries to shoot at Dean and chases Dean. Now, Dean gets shot at several times, but it wasn't until he was shot in the head that he died. And Henley then releases the boys who were with him, and they contacted the police for help. Now, Dean is dead, so they can't try Dean, and they don't really know all of what happened. And at the time, they didn't realize there were so many victims. Brooks and Henley did not know the amount of victims either. In fact, Brooks and Henley will say that Dean would go out on his own at night, and that was just his thing, and they wouldn't know what was going on. But you see, instead of being considered victims who were groomed and under pressure to perform these acts, they were considered accomplices and charged as such. Now, they helped the police find some of the victims' bodies where they knew were there. And it seems that Dean had threatened Brooks and Henley at different times and made them kill or harm someone, some of these boys. Not many, but it didn't matter. These boys said, yeah, this is what happened. And so they ended up getting indicted and charged. The district attorney requested that Henley actually undergo psychiatric examination to determine if he was actually mentally competent to stand trial. But his own attorney, Charles Belder, opposed this, saying stating the move would violate Henley's constitutional rights. Now, by the time the grand jury had completed its investigation, Henley had been indicted for 6 murders and Brooks for 4. Now, Henley was not charged for the death of Dean, which prosecutors had ruled back in September 18th had been committed in self-defense. However, they're not considered, it's just mind-blowing. Now, so both Brooks and Henley's trials, they were found guilty. The juries didn't even waste time. It was like less than 2 hours for each of these things, and they were like guilty, 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 guilty. Now, and they were charged with life sentences. Henley is serving his life sentence at the Mark W. Michael Unit in Anderson County, Texas. He has had parole applications dating from July 1980, yet they've all been denied. He is now going to be eligible for parole in October of 2025. Now, Brooks, he served his life sentence at the Terrell Unit near Rosharon, Texas, and he died of COVID-19 related complications at Galveston Hotel on May 28th, 2020. The system clearly failed these two young men. The hate and fear towards homosexuality blinded people back then to the truth that Brooks and Henley were victims also. They needed help, not just to be locked up and forgotten in a cell. They needed psychiatric help. They needed they they really needed help. This really disturbs me that our system failed them. So that is about the Candyman. Now we're going to get to... Now, John Wayne Gacy, I'm not going in as much detail because there is so much out there about him. And y'all know about this killer clown dude. John Wayne Gacy was born March 17th, 1942. And he was executed on May 10th, 1994. He was a serial killer and sex offender known as the Killer Clown, who assaulted and murdered at least 33... Excuse me. I got... 33 young men and boys. Now, Gacy regularly performed at children's hospitals and charitable events as Pogo the Clown or Patches the Clown. These were personas that he created and they were registered in the clown registry. And he was very active in his community, and no one knew what this guy was actually capable of. See, according to Gacy, he committed all his murders inside his ranch house, which was near Norridge, a village in Norwood Park Township, metropolitan Chicago, Illinois. And he would lure his victims to his home, dupe them, and into donning handcuffs on a pretext of demonstrating a magic trick. You know, he's a clown. Let me show you a trick. Put these handcuffs on. And that's when he would assault sexually and physically these young boys and men before he would kill them by strangulation with a garrote or just asphyxiate them. Now, 26 victims were buried in a crawl space of his home, and 3 others were buried elsewhere on his property. He had concrete, and they were all underneath. It was, yeah. And apparently 4 were discarded in the Des Plaines River. Now, Gacy was convicted of, the sodomy of a teenage boy in Waterloo, Iowa in 1968, and was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment, but served only 18 months. He murdered his first victim in 1972 and murdered twice more by the end of 1975, and murdered then at least 30 after his divorce from his second wife in 1976. Now, the investigation into the disappearance of Des Plaines teenager Robert Piest led to Gacy's arrest on December 21st, 1978. I vaguely remember some of this. I was in kindergarten, and I remember just thinking, a scary clown that he killed. This is not good. Okay? Now, his conviction were for 33 murders by one individual, and then covered the most of the I can't talk. Now, his I can talk. Yes, excuse me. But his conviction for the 33 murders was considered the most homicides in United States legal history. Gacy was sentenced to death on March 13th, 1980, where he spent his time on death row at Menard Correctional Center until May 10th, 1994, where he was shipped out to Stateville Correctional Center and executed. While he was on death row, Gacy became very talkative. And he wanted to let people know, hey, I didn't kill all those people. I wasn't even in the state of Illinois, which in 2012 they were able to confirm John Wayne Gacy, for at least 16 of these victims, was not even in the state of Illinois. He was out. He wasn't around. So people are like, oh, did Gacy actually have accomplices? And as they dug deeper, they're like, is this part of, and unfortunately, back in the 80s, they called it a homosexual network. No, it's a pedophile network, folks. Pedophile. Let's clear that up. If you see, watch the documentary, you'll see how it was contorted and very prejudiced against gay men and the LGBTQ community. All right. Now, it is thought that Gacy and Corll were connected by this network, but will we really ever know? Now, just some house information about Amber Alerts. They actually came out in 1984, and it was because in Illinois, police had to wait 72 hours before initiating a search for missing children or teens. And because of Gacy's murders, they were like, we can't wait 72 hours when a child or a teen goes missing. We need to react immediately. So they removed that 72-hour waiting period. And it was the Illinois Missing Child Recovery Act of 1984, which we all know as the Amber Alert. You just sometimes get those. Your phone goes off and you see it. Now, other states across America now have adopted the same adopted the same procedures of no longer waiting 72 hours, and there's now a national network aimed at locating missing children. The Child Abduction Emergency, which we know, Amber Alert. So, that is what we have, and I did not go into this other man that, if you watch the documentary, they'll talk about, who may be kind of running the network, was one of the higher ups, and his connections to Gacy and Dean. And it's really interesting, and you kind of wonder if, who's all behind this, and how were they able to get these photos and stuff between each other. There had to be some kind of communication. We did not have no internet. So we're going to dive now into the tarot reading, and I want to remind everyone that everything is all alleged and done for entertainment purposes only. Anything that I might come about and say inside this reading cannot ever be used in a court of law. We just bear this in mind, and now we can go on into the actual tarot reading, and let's see what we can find out about any kind of connection with Dean and Gacy, the Candyman and the Clown. Hey, we're back, and now we're diving into the tarot reading. Please remember that this is all alleged and for entertainment purposes only. So here we go. This case with, let's see if there's oh boy, 2 cards popped out. Well, we have the Emperor and the 4 of Wands. Let's see here what is going to go with that. Oops, that card flew out. Where did it go? I can't see the card. Holy moly. Where did it fly off to? Okay, here it is. The 6 of Pentacles. Well. What have we here? Wow. Sorry about that. My throat is really drying out. So, what you got? The Emperor. There's a structure. There's and he is in charge of. There's somebody we're looking at here. And there is some kind of conflict. There's been conflict, and we're dealing with greed. A lot of greed. And it's like, if you see these 4 here and how they're set up, this always gives me like a cult, a group of people, and they're up to no good, is what I'm seeing. And so I, with these cards, I see there is a structure where there's a tier, there's top, and a network. It's a network. They're really, this is what I'm seeing here, and it's all for, it's very greedy, and a lot of backstabbing going on. I believe. I just, yeah. There's a, not always a bunch of trust is what I'm seeing here. Let's see what I can get more here. Okay. Okay. And here we go. So this is the Page of Cups. Now, a page that's not good. I'm just gonna say, with the Emperor over the young naive Page of Cups, this does not, this gives me not goodness. As I said, it's a network, and then I see the Ace of Pentacles, and it's upside down. Now, upright, it would be, okay, starting some kind of new creative business, and create some kind of new thing, money making thing, opportunity. But this is, there's not a, failed planning, loss of money, loss of this opportunity, and you have it with this group upside down, and with the greed. And then we have the Five of Swords, and this usually has to do with a workplace kind of situation. And I just, with, if it had been upright, it would have been more of a disagreement. But here we're like, someone's trying to make amends, trying to make it better. We got to do, we got to work. We need to work together. We need to, okay, their target is the young, to break them down. And they're trying to keep this kind of control over them. And there's a lot of money exchanged. There's been some losses where there's going to be, okay, someone was taken down. It created the great loss and fear in this network, and it's trying to mend what was lost. And that creeps me out. Yeah, Three of Cups over the Emperor and the Page. Ooh. And Justice reversed over the cult cards. That's And the Seven of Cups is not, their focus is off. Okay, so the Three of Cups is usually, we got this grouping, they're coming together, and it's a community. So we're dealing and building of trust amongst this community, this network, and then we have Justice, and she's reversed. And we're dealing with corruption here and a massive imbalance. I think this network is tied to the powerful, to the justice system, to people in these positions of power. We have the Emperor and the corrupt justice system. And you got the Seven of Cups reversed. Like when you see the Seven of Cups, it's like you're not focused. You're just kind of a daydreamer. And this is like being overwhelmed here, and this when it's reversed. So there's like this when over the greed and the mistrust, trying to build trust. It's they're just drained and overwhelmed by the choices that's being made. What choice? That's what I'm curious about here. Let's see here. Eight of Wands upside down. Okay. Oh, I don't like that card upside down. The Ten of Cups. When it's upside, it's like, oh, yay, family, and we're doing so well, and happy ending. But that's not it at all. That's like broken. Okay. Oh, shit. When this card comes up, it is often in these situations, meaning that there has been a suicide. So part of the big thing is a suicide. That the Eight of Wands, that's just like so overpowering. You just being okay, this is just resisting of change, being fed up and frustrated. Things are not going right, and I can just see this. The network is that things are not being kept as hidden. And when you got the Ten of Cups here, this is everything is disrupted. There's disconnect. They are, and it deals with corruption. And then there was a suicide, which caused a lot of doubt and mistrust. And I am seeing who this was, and I'm not gonna go out and allegedly say who this person was, because I think some of y'all could put two and two together and kind of see where this is going. And I did not expect him to pop up in this reading, but yeah, he did. Okay, so everything's gonna fall apart before it gets better with that Tower card. This network is crumbling, and it is and they're overwhelmed. They're stabbing each other in the back. Whoo! Now this. Strength. Now seeing the Strength card here, and I just, it was definitely not, I did not expect it. Let's put that there. This is like, hey, we need to be patient. We can't do anything right now. We need to stop. We need to slow down because things are falling apart. Things are coming out. It's coming unwound. That is... I'm going to put this deck away for now. I would say that, yeah, there's been a connection. Definitely. And this network is there, and I'm seeing there's trafficking of children. And it's been going on for decades. Decades. All right, so number 11, and we're dealing, that's with the whip. And this is in a position where this is about abuse and just anger, being punished. It can also mean a quarrel, but there's a lot of abuse going on here. And I'm thinking we know who the abuse is, and then, oh, wow. Card number 43 is next to that. Now, you see the little heads popping up from a maze. They're like peeking around like, hello, peekaboo, peekaboo. And what's happening is this is a separation of the goals, the separation of the group. It's falling apart, this maze. The abuse is, it's, their people are very frustrated, very angry because they see it all coming to an end. And then we have number 2, the clover. And when you get a clover, you're just like, oh, that's luck. Now, having it in with these 2 cards, it does kind of change things up a bit. This would mean the opportunities that they've had are not going to be continuing. It's falling apart. And this is exactly, we're getting bad luck here because it's with the maze and the abuse, the whip with the abuse. So, yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, birdhouse 12. Let's see here. And, oh, the mountain 20. And that's over the maze. And then the anchor over, okay. Okay, let's look at this here. At this card. And this card, this is all little birds. It's kind of like when people hang out at the water cooler at work, where they're all chit-chatting and gossiping. And it could also mean the internet, a phone call. Stuff is coming out. It's being gossiping. It's being leaked out that there's people being abused. And this mountain is blocking. It's a block. You can't go further anymore, and it's right over the maze. So the maze, windy road, confusion, falling apart, and then bam, it's like we're stuck. Or, we're fucked. Kind of what we're seeing here. And then you have 35, and you see the ship's anchor, and you see the waves all around it. Ooh. They're trying to get away, but being held back. They're being held back by this, they're anchored down. The lilies. I think for a while they thought things were going to go their way, and then it all fell apart, as we're seeing here. Okay, so number 30, and you see these cute, beautiful little flowers here, the lilies. And this actually has to do with an older generation. We're dealing with sex drive. But it also can bring peace. But what I'm sensing here is gossiping because they were abusing, older men abusing young people sexually is what we're seeing. That right there. And number 23, these little squirrels. All these little squirrels. And where they're placed is not good. See, they are panicky. Oh, we gotta hoard everything. We gotta get everything. Oh no, we're gonna lose all this stuff. And they're stealing stuff to get, and anxious. And it's because they've gotten lost this maze, and they're hit up against the mountain. They're trapped, and they're being held back. And when you get to the ring, which is the Ace of Clubs card, which is number 25, this usually means that there has been an agreement, a contract. But it is falling apart. So, that, I don't think we're going to get much more. I think it pretty much, way everything came out, we're seeing, yeah. I would say the Candyman and the Killer Clown, they definitely could be part of a network of sex trafficking of children. And I think it was all ignored because it was just, oh, it's the gay men, it's the gays. We got to get on top of this, because this is about abusing, using power and control, and harming others to build themselves up and make them feel better. And there's been a lot of money, so they've been very powerful and got their contacts and been able to corrupt the justice system to protect them. And it's coming to a point where they can't keep things quiet as under control because of social media, because of the internet, because people are able to communicate to each other freer, which is why they want to try and censor what's here on the internet and what people can see and say and do, because they are losing that control and the power to continue abusing our children and women and men. This is wow. And I am seeing, we got so much of these missing children, and I know I keep seeing Delphi murders, and I'm seeing that they're connected. All of this is like, it's been going on for generations. And the tower is falling apart. It's crumbling. So let's just keep chipping at it, folks. Let's save our children. Let's bring justice. I really hope. So this reading really did kind of, it shook me. Yeah, it shook me. There's harming our children. Having been myself, it's, yeah. So, on that note, folks, please be kind to yourself and be kind to others. We really don't know what everyone is going through that moment you meet them, or what's on their mind and what could be bothering them or not. So be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm going to ask you, if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel. If you've been here the whole way through, I want to see a comment with a black heart down below. And give me, what you want to see me cover definitely for next. I'm looking at the smiley face killers, which that one is another interesting. Yeah. I know some people want me to do Selena. I don't know. I need to hear more. If more people want me to do Selena's family and what's going on with them, I definitely will. If you want me to cover the death of McAfee, let me know. Just comment down below what you want to see next. If there's a paranormal something, because I've done Amityville, and I liked that one. And there's some others I want to do. So and let me know. Just comment down below, because I am enjoying doing these videos and I want to get more and more out. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. So many of you have. Please, I hope, share these videos so I can get more subscribers. And yeah, I love you guys. Be safe out there. Please be safe. I love you. I'll see you next time here on the MB Network. Bye.